Welcome to Life Point TV. I'm Pastor Dale Phillips, and I'm glad you joined us for our Life Point broadcast, Your Path to Real Life. We are entering into another study series, and I want you to join me in the book of Matthew, Matthew chapter 7, find verse 17. Get your Bibles open there. I want to begin reading at verse 17. Even so, every good tree bringeth forth good fruit, but a corrupt tree bringeth forth evil fruit. A good tree cannot bring forth evil fruit, neither can a corrupt tree bring forth good fruit. Every tree that is bringeth not forth good fruit is hewn down and cast into the fire. Wherefore, verse 20, wherefore by their fruits ye shall know them. I want to zero in on the emphasis of talking about trees. The illustration and the instruction that Jesus is dealing with here is all based upon a principal concept concerning the tree. The tree is one of the early symbols that uh, is used to identify a right relationship between God and man. We'll all recall that in the Garden of Eden, the instructions that Adam is given is relative to what tree, listen, that he can eat from and what tree he cannot eat from. So early on, we established that the fact that there is tree that is good for man, there's a tree that is good for man and a tree that is not good for man, or more specifically, the fruit that comes from that tree. One fruit leads to life, the other fruit leads to separation from life or condemnation, that which separates man from God. The same principle is yet true as we unfold this teaching here in the New Testament, that life is very pragmatic in that it's relative to fruit that comes from a tree. Important things to kind of identify in regards to the structure of the relationship between a tree and its fruit. It clearly states here in the verses that we read that you cannot get corrupt fruit from a good tree, and you also cannot get good fruit from a corrupt tree. It tells us then that the nature of fruit is embedded in the tree that it comes from. Let me say that one more time. The nature of fruit, the end result, is embedded in the tree that the fruit comes from. So we have to look at it perhaps in a real simplistic form. A tree that bears fruit, the fruit is not good because you hang good fruit on the tree. The tree has good fruit because the fruit comes from the tree. It comes out of the tree. Whatever is in the tree eventually ends up in the fruit. So much so that you could not take a corrupt tree and then find good fruit from somewhere else and simply attach it to the tree to make the tree good. So I want us to understand that the fruit, which is the end result, is what we are known by. That's what the last verse that I read established. Verse 20 says, "We are known; men will be known by their fruits." But we have to take one step back in that process and understand that the fruit that I'm known by is based on the tree. Listen, that I come from, or the tree, the nature of the tree that gives birth to that fruit. So it all comes back to what tree we are feeding from. The tree that represents life, or the tree that represents death. The tree that gives birth to good fruit, or the tree that gives birth to corrupt fruit. The tree, that symbolic um, icon that can represent life or death. So we cannot make our decisions based on what we see on the outside. Your attraction, my attraction to a tree cannot be relative to what I simply see on the outside. We have to be intuitive, spiritually conscious about what's inside the tree. What's in the tree is what produces the fruit that will bring life. That's what Jesus deals with here when in association to how we distinguish. In this passage, he actually uses it as a comparison to be able to distinguish between the true prophet and the false prophet. The false prophet that has the appearance of being good, but on the inside is really a ravening wolf. You'll see that in the scriptures that lead into the verses that we read. And then more specifically, making sure that as believers, as followers of Christ, that we understand it is not what appears on the outside of our life that counts. What's most important is what's in a man. As a man thinketh in his heart, so he is. I want to drive our thinking about the nature of a tree, the good tree that will produce good fruit. Here's the one of the first teaching points I want to establish on this. Once the tree establishes its fruit, you cannot change. Ooh, watch this. You cannot change the type of fruit that tree is going to produce. So if it begins to produce good fruit, it's not going to change later on into fruit that's corrupt or fruit that's evil. No more than a tree that produces as one of the examples that is used here, the grapes or the figs. You're not going to come back later on and find that tree is producing a whole different type of fruit. A tree is going to always be known by the fruit that it bears. So get a hold of this. Once the good fruit of God is produced in us, that fruit is going to remain. It's not going to change. I want you to continue to stay engaged in this study with us as we continue to analyze the tree that produces fruit that is eternal, fruit that is everlasting. This is Pastor Dale Phillips encouraging you to stay on the path that leads to real life.